The concrete of Jiangcheng does not yield. When you fall from the 20th floor, the air does not rush past you like water. It hits you like iron. It tears the breath from your throat, rips the cheap cotton of your blouse, and turns the gray, smog-choked sky into a swirling, dizzying vortex. In those 4 seconds of descent, I did not see my life flash before my eyes. I only saw the small, peeling green balcony of my mother's apartment receding into the mist, and below, the sharp, ornamental rocks of the building's courtyard rising to meet me. There was a sound, a wet, heavy crack like a winter melon dropping onto stone. And then nothing. Then the smell of melting copper. My lungs seized. I gasped, my throat filling not with the cold air of the courtyard, but with the greasy, chemical stench of burning synthetic leather and ancient electrical insulation. My hand jerked forward, scraping against rough, damp linoleum. The skin was cool. It was unbroken. I stared at my palms and thetum. Yellow light of the hallway. There were no white, puckered scars across my knuckles. There was no raw, weeping flesh where the brass door handle of the burning apartment had melted into my grip. My microwave on the counter blinked. 2:18 p.m. July 14th. The heat was already beginning to gather in the throat of the corridor, a dry, whispering beast crawling out from the faulty wiring behind the kitchen pantry. In my first life, this was the exact moment I had run. I had torn my nails, the quick clawing at my cousin Lucy's bedroom door, screaming her name until my voice was nothing but a raspy rattle before dragging her dead weight, unconscious body out into the smoke. I had given her my lungs, my skin, and then X'd 3 years of my life. And in return, she had given me the pavement. I remember the ward of the Jiangcheng 3rd People's Hospital. It smelled of boiled cabbage, chlorhexidine, and the sour, damp wool of the blankets they gavito the charity cases. I lay on my back, my arms suspended in wire slings like 2 carcass joints in a butcher's window. The nurse, a tired woman with gray skin and grease-stained cuffs, used long silver forceps to peel the yellowed, serum-soaked gauze from my palms. Every pull felt as though she were tearing the meat directly from my bones. I did not scream. To scream was to lose face in front of the relatives who stood at the foot of the bed, clutching their plastic bags of cheap apples and looking at me with a mixture of pity and disgust. "You should have been more careful, Anan," my uncle Jiangcheng had said, his gold teeth glittering under the flickering fluorescent tube. He was Lucy's father, a man who smelled of stale baijiu and the grease of the state-owned garage he managed. A girl's hands are her second face. How are we going to find you a husband now? You look like a roasted duck. Lucy sat on the edge of the adjacent bed. Her skin was the color of fresh curd, pristine and cool. On her forehead, she wore a single, tiny square of white esteryle tape, an ornamental wound, nothing more. Her boyfriend, Chen Wei, stood behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. He did not look at me. His eyes were fixed on the small, scratched screen of his phone, where the local Jiangcheng Evening News was running a segment on the fire. The victim, the anchor's voice droned through the cheap speaker of the ward's television, was rescued by her cousin, who suffered severe burns. Neighbors report the victim was carried from the building, wrapped only in a light cotton sheet. The sheet had slipped in the dark stairwell. As the smoke blinded me and the heat charred my calves, the damp sheet I had thrown over Lucy had caught on a protruding iron banister. I had kept running, my raw shoulders straining under her weight, unaware that by the time we reached the bright, rain-slicked concrete of the courtyard, she was bare to the waist in front of 72 tenants and 3 news crews. I remember the shift in the room's temperature then. It did not come from Theradiator. It came from Lucy's eyes. She had looked at the television screen, then at Chen Wei's rigid jaw, and finally at me. The gratitude that had flickered in her face for the first 10 minutes of her waking life withered into something black and hard. "You did it on purpose," she whispered. The ward was silent save for the drip of my saline bag. "You knew the reporters were downstairs. You wanted them to seem like that. You wanted Chen Wei to see me." "Lucy," I had croaked, my throat still raw from the soot. The stairs were on fire. The fire wasn't even in my room, she screamed, her voice rising to that thin, metallic pitch she used when she wanted her father to buy her another pair of leather shoes. It was just some smoke in the hall. I could have walked out myself. But you dragged me out like a dog, naked, in front of the whole district. You ruined me. Chen Wei left that evening. He did not say goodbye to her. He did not look at me. 3 days later, his mother sent a matchmaker to my uncle's house to return the engagement gifts, the gold dragon and phoenix bangles, the red silk bed sheets, and to cancel the wedding. Lucy did not cry. Instead, she took her things and moved into the small, 2-bedroom apartment my mother had bought me with her retirement pension. Since Anan ruined my marriage, Lucy told my mother, her face sweet and pale as she held my mother's rough hands. It's only right she lets me stay with her until I find another. We are family, after all. Family doesn't keep accounts. My mother, a woman who had spent 40 years bowing her head in the textile mills, had agreed. Family, she whispered to me that night as she rubbed cheap mutton fat ointment into my scarred arms, is a mountain we must carry on. If we don't, who will? I carried the mountain. I let Lucy have the larger bedroom. I let her wear my high-necked silk blouses to hide the small scar on her collarbone. I worked 60 hours a week at Rillian Corp, my scarred hands stiff on the keyboard, tope for her imported facial creams and the organic pork she insisted on eating. And then came the afternoon of the shower. I had come home early, my head throbbing from the glare of the office lights. The bathroom was thick with steam, smelling of Lucy's expensive lavender soap. I had barely stepped into the tub, the cold water needle sharp against my scarred back, when the door clicked open. Lucy stood there, her red dress vivid against the white tiles. In her hand, she held her phone, the screen glowing, the green indicator light of the camera bright and steady. "Sorry, Anna," she chirped, her voice loud and unnaturally bright, directed not at me, but at the device. "I had no idea you were home. I thought you were still working late at Rillian. Oh dear, look at you. Are those the burns from the fire? They look so painful." I had scrambled for the towel, my wet feet slipping on some porcelain, my heart hammering against my ribs as I saw the scrolling text on her screen. The thousands of anonymous viewers, the red hearts floating up the side of the display, the comments of, "Is that her? And she looks like an old ginger root. Turn it off," I had screamed, my voice cracking. "Lucy, turn it off. Oh, the stream is lagging." She lied, her eyes wide and blank as she held Thelans closer, targeting the thick red keloids on my shoulder blades. Let me just adjust the signal. By the time she closed the door, my name, my workplace, and my home address had been pinned to the top of the local streaming index. The next morning, the strangers were waiting. They stood near the bicycle sheds outside my building, young men with greasy hair and cheap cameras, waiting to catch a glimpse of the ginger root girl. When I walked into the elevator at Rillian Corp, the other girls stepped out, their eyes fixed on their shoes, their mouths twisted in silent, polite distaste. My manager, Mr. Zhao, was a practical man. He did not look at my face when he handed me the white envelope. "Your presence is disrupting the department, Jiang An," he said, his pen busy signing a requisition form. "We've had 32 prank calls to the reception desk this morning alone. We are a logistics firm, not a circus. Take 3 months' pay. Don't come back." I packed my desk into a single cardboard box. I did not cry in the office, but when I reached the apartment, the door was locked from the inside. "Lucy," I had beat my palms against the wood. "Open the door." When she finally opened it, she was wearing my mother's pearl earrings. Her face was flushed, her lips red. Behind her, Shu Bowen, a man with slicked back hair and the cheap, sharp suit of a sub-district tax collector, was sitting on my sofa, drinking my mother's Longjing tea. "You can't stay here anymore, sister," Lucy said, her voice soft, almost pitying. "Bowen and I are getting married. This apartment, well, my father says it's only fair that I take it as compensation for the marriage you ruined. Besides, with your reputation now, how can you live in a decent building?" "This is my mother's house," I whispered. Your mother signed the transfer yesterday, Xu Bowen said, not looking up from his tea. We told her it was the only way to save you from the lawsuits Rillianis planning to file for brand damage. She's a simple woman. She wanted to protect you. I had lunged for her then. I did not see the red dress, or the pearls, or Themen on the sofa. I only saw the small, pale face of the girl I had carried through the flames. We struggled on the balcony. The rain had just begun, a cold, greasy drizzle that made the green tiles slick under our slippers. I had her by the collar of her red dress, my scarred fingers digging into the silk when she leaned in close, her breath warm against my ear. "You should have let me burn, cousin," she whispered. Then her hand came down on my wrist, not with the weak, trembling grip of the girl who had fainted from the smoke, but with the cold, precise leverage of a woman who had spent months practicing this exact movement in her head. Shishovid, the railing was low. The tiles were wet, and the concrete of Jiangcheng was waiting. I sit on the edge of my bed. The room is cold, but the wall behind my head is already starting to hum with a faint, low vibration. The wire behind the plaster is thin, insulated with nothing but cheap vulcanized rubber that has dried to a gray powder over 20 years. In 10 minutes, the spark will catch the dry newspaper my mother uses to line the vegetable bin in the kitchen. In 15 minutes, the hallway will be a chimney of black toxic grease. I do not move. I do not call my mother. I do not run to the kitchen with the bucket of water we keep by the sink. Instead, I take a slow, deep breath. My throat is clear. My tongue does not taste of ash. I look down at my hands. They are small, pale, and smooth. The skin over my knuckles is tight and whole, unmarked by the iron melt of the brass knob. These are the hands of a girl who has never saved anyone. I begin to count. My mother is currently at the wet market on East Road, buying ginger and salted fish. She will not return until 3:30 p.m. She is safe. My uncle, Jiangcheng, is at his garage 3 kilometers away, waiting for a shipment of imported gaskets that will never arrive because I diverted the delivery order yesterday before my death, or rather, before my rebirth. And Lucy is in her bedroom, 3 paces down the hall. I can hear her. She is not sleeping. She is sitting in front of her vanity mirror, her phone propped against a stack of books, her voice rising in that high, sweet, slightly nasal lilt she uses for her trial streams. She has been entering to build an audience on the Red Plum app for 3 weeks, selling cheap, lead-heavy face powders she buys in bulk from the wholesale market near the railway station. Thank you, Big Brother Lee, for the flower. Her voice drifts through the Thimplywood door. No, Lucy doesn't have a boyfriend. Lucy is very lonely in this big apartment. I stand up. My joints are quiet. I walk into the living room. The space is not the neat, orderly home my mother kept. It is choked, crowded, almost impassable with cardboard boxes. There are 17 of them. They are heavy, square, and sealed with wide, yellow packing tape that smells of industrial glue. Inside are Lucy's investments. 300 boxes of wholesale cosmetics, 5 steel-framed ring lights, 4 extendable aluminum tripods, and 75 synthetic silk dresses she ordered from a factory in Zhejiang. She had left them here, in the middle of the small living room, because she wasn't in the mood to carry them into her closet, and because she knew my mother would eventually unpack them for her. "They're just boxes, Anon," my mother had said when I complained of tripping over them in the dark. "Your cousin is trying to build a career. We must help her." I look at the boxes now. The cardboard is 5 millimeters thick. When dry, it ignites at 250 degrees Celsius. When stacked 3 deep, it can withstand 60 kilogram lateral pressure before buckling. I look at Lucy's door. It is a standard interior door, made of hollow core pine wood, 7 feet high, 2 feet 6 inches wide. The handle is a cheap brass-plated latch that does not lock properly from the inside because the strike plate has been misaligned since the winter of 2021. I reach down and grasp the first box. It is the one containing the steel tripods. It weighs nearly 20 kilograms. I carry it silently across the linoleum. I set it down exactly 3 inches from the frame of Lucy's door. I do not feel the anger now. The heat in my chest is not the red, wild rage that had sent me over the balcony in my first life. It is something blue and cold, like the pilot light on my mother's gas stove. It is the quiet, methodical calculation of a clerk correcting a long-standing error in the ledger. The second box is lighter. Synthetic dresses, packed tightly in wax paper. I stack it on top of the first. The third box contains the lead-heavy face powders. When I place it, the stack reaches the height of my shoulder. It fits perfectly into the recess of the doorframe, wedged between the wooden molding and the brass handle. Inside the room, the sweet, nasal voice continues without a pause. "Oh, Big Brother Lee, you are so generous. Lucy would love to go to Theriverfront with you, but my cousin is so strict. She makes me do all the cleaning." I do not smile. I take the fourth box, a long, narrow carton containing thealuminum light stands, and wedge it diagonally from the base of the opposite wall to the center of the stack. It forms a perfect, rigid brace. A grown man would have to throw his entire body weight against the door 4 or 5 times to splinter the pine frame before the boxes would budge. Lucy, with her narrow shoulders and her pale, soft hands, will not even make the wood groan. I walk to the kitchen. The wall behind the stove is already hot to the touch. A thin gray ribbon of smoke, smelling of fried fat and old rubber, is beginning to coil around the light fixture. The fire has taken. It is quiet, as old fires are when they begin in the dark places of a house. I take the small blue and white cotton towel from the rack. I do not soak it. I do not press it to my face. I walk to the front door of the apartment. I open it, step out onto the concrete landing of the 20th floor, and close the door behind me. Then I stop. If I walk down the stairs now, completely whole, my uncle will ask why I did not save his daughter. The police will look at the boxes wedged against the door and see the work of a sister's hand. The neighbors will remember the quiet, scarred girl who lived with her mother and think, "She was always strange. I need the fire on my skin, but I do not need it on my palms." I look at the heavy brass lock of the apartment door. The metal is cool. Behind it, the hallway of our home is beginning to fill with the first real draft of the fire. I pull up the right leg of my linen trousers. My calf is pale, smooth, and thin. I turn toward the small, metal gas riser pipe that runs along the exterior wall off the stairwell. Next to it, the building's old iron fire door is held open by a heavy wooden wedge. The iron frame of the door is rusty, sharp, and hot from the afternoon sun that beats through the unwashed stairwell window. I press the side of my right calf against the rough, hot iron. The pain is immediate. It is not the clean, sharp slice of a knife. It is as low, boiling hiss that turns my skin from white to a dark, angry purple. The smell of singed hair and scorched linen rises between my knees. My teeth click together so hard a small drop of copper-tasting blood wells on my lip. Do not pull away. I count to 3. 1. For the hospital room where Lucy wore her sterile tape like a jewel. 2. For my mother's pearl earrings. 3. For the 4 seconds of air before the concrete, I pull my leg back. The skin is blistered, gray in the center, surrounded by a bright, angry ring of red. It is a convincing wound. It is the burn of a girl who fled through a burning frame, too terrified to look behind her. I let my body fall against the green plaster wall of the stairwell. I begin to scream, "Fire!" My voice is high, thin, and wild, echoing down the concrete shaft of the 20th floor. "Help! Fire on the 20th floor!" Dodd. By the time the elevator doors of the ground floor open, the courtyard is already alive. The heat of Jiangcheng's summer afternoon is thick, but the air in the courtyard is different. It is charged with the sudden, electric joy of other people's disaster. Neighbors are pouring out from the lower blocks, some carrying cheap plastic basins of water, others holding their phones high, the screens bright as they start their own live broadcasts. "Look at the smoke!" A woman from the 4th floor yells, pointing her green plastic slipper toward the sky. "It's the Jiang family's place, the widow's apartment." I stumble out from the dark throat of the stairwell, dragging my right leg. The blister on my calf has popped, the clear serum running down my ankle, streaking the soot on my skin. I fall onto the gravel path near the ornamental rockery, the exact spot where, in another life, my bones had turned to dust. Anon, a heavy hand falls on my shoulder. It is not my mother's. My uncle Jiang Cheng stands over me. He has run from his garage. His gray cotton shirt is soaked with sweat, smelling of motor oil and cheap tobacco. His grip on my collar is tight enough to bruise. He does not look at my burned leg. He does not ask if I can breathe. "Where is Lucy?" he roars, his face red, his gold teeth bared like a dog's. "Why are you out here alone? Where is your cousin?" The crowd has gathered around us now. I can see Mrs. Zhang from the grocery store, her phone held high, the red recording light steady. I can see the young men from the bicycle sheds, their faces bright with the hope of a sorcery. I look up at my uncle. My eyes are wide, wet, and blank with the perfect, glassy terror of a stupid girl. She told me she wasn't home," I whisper. My voice is small, but in the quiet of the courtyard, it carries to the third row of the crowd. "What do you mean?" Jiang Cheng shakes me, his fingers digging into my collarbone. "She was in her room. She told me she was going to stream this afternoon." "No," I sob, my head shaking violently as I reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. The screen is greasy with soot, but the green chat interface of the Red Plum app is clear. "She texted me. She said she was going out with Big Brother Lee. She told me not to wait for her." I hold the screen up to my uncle's face. I hold it long enough for Mrs. Zhang's camera lens to focus on the text. The message is there. It was sent at 1:45 p.m. from Lucy's account. A message I had sent myself from her phone while she was in the bathroom, using the simple pattern lock I had memorized over 3 years of living in her shadow. "Cousin, clean up your boxes this afternoon." The living room is a mess, and below it, her reply, the lie she always used when she wanted to avoid helping my mother with the chores. "No time. I have to go out. I won't be home this afternoon. Don't wait up." "See?" I sob, my head dropping onto my knees, my tears genuine now, drawn from the raw, stinging pain of the burn on my leg. She told me she was out. I thought she was safe. I didn't look in her room. I swear I didn't look. Jiang Cheng stares at the screen. The red in his face drains away, leaving him the color of wet river silt. "No," he whispers. "No, she was in her room. She was streaming." The crowd is murmuring now. I can hear the shift in their voices. The cold, dry assessment of Jiang Cheng's working-class tenants. "So she lied to avoid the work," Mrs. Zhang says to her neighbor, her voice loud enough to carry over the sound of the approaching sirens. And now her cows got burned trying to save herself, thinking the girl was out. What a daughter. What a family. "She was always a lazy thing," another voice replies. "Always wearing her cousin's clothes, looking down her nose at the rest of us." I sit on the gravel above us. The black smoke from the 20th floor has finally broken through the window. It rises in a straight, thick column into the gray sky, clean and dark, carrying with it the synthetic silk dresses, the cheap face splitters, and the heavy cardboard boxes that had blocked the door. My uncle drops my phone into the dirt. He turns toward the building, his heavy boots clicking on the concrete as he runs toward the entrance. But the firemen are already there, their yellow coats bright against the soot, their heavy canvas hoses snaking across that gravel. "You can't go up there, citizen," a young officer says, his arm formidably barring Jiang Cheng's chest. The stairwell is fully involved. I reach down and pick my phone out of the mud. I wipe the screen with the hem of my blouse. The glass is scratched, but the display is still working. A small green notification light is blinking in the corner. It is a message from the Red Plum app. A new viewer has just entered Lucy's stream. I look up at the 20th floor. The fire is beautiful from here. It does not look like a monster at all. It looks like a clean slate, written in ash.